Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you are all doing well out there and continuing to stay safe here with everything. Time for an update video here. Got a pretty good stack of stuff again, and some of these I might have, again, talked about in a previous video at some point or another, but what I like to do for these updates is anything new that I've picked up, I kind of put it on a separate side of the movie shelf here, and after I watch it, I'll compile everything together that I've watched and then do an update so I can kind of alphabetize everything with the rest of the collection. So this is everything since the last video that I've been able to catch up on for new pickups that I've got. So, first one here, phenomenal movie, and that is Joker. I loved everything about this movie. I thought this was done so well because it wasn't so much this focus point of the Joker itself. It was really just this tragic story of, mental illness and what it would take for somebody to actually snap and crack, and just basically just blanketed with the Joker. So I thought this was phenomenal. Joaquin Phoenix absolutely crushed it in there. Heath Ledger is still, because that's the Joker. Heath Ledger is still the Joker to me. But as far as them being able to do something different with that character that stands on its own as just a monumental performance, unbelievable. And how crazy to think that two Joker performances have brought home Academy Awards for actors now. It's kind of crazy to think about. Marvel crushes it with the movie stuff, but for DC to pull it off with two actors on the same character is pretty impressive. Next year is Doctor Sleep. I loved this movie so much, man. They did such a perfect job with this, taking from The Shining, and this really stands on its own. But if you know The Shining, you've seen The Shining, it just gives so much more to this story as it is. I can't believe how well that they executed this movie. When I went into this, I had high expectations in a sense because I do really like Ewan McGregor. I was really, really pumped that they got him in for this movie. So I was excited really for that purpose alone. As far as where the story was going to go and how the movie is going to play out, I was trying to keep myself in check with that as much as possible. But nevertheless, it was just phenomenal. To me, it's seriously as good as The Shining for me. These movies back to back, like a 1-2 punch, to me, it stands the test of time with all of the greats out there. I'm not going to say that they're better than Alien and Aliens together or Terminator, Terminator 2 and such, but they deserve to be put on that pedestal of that 1-2 punch combination of movies that just blows your mind. I absolutely loved this movie. I thought it was damn near perfect. Next year we got Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And I was a little bit disappointed by this. I like the artistic vision that Tarantino brought to this. I just feel like in his movies, there's enough context going on, even if there's so many different stories happening or, you're jumping times and stuff. I feel like there's enough context to his movies and interesting dialogue and such that keeps you invested to when things start to intertwine or you get to the payoff. It just makes everything that much more satisfying. And then you get almost a better experience with the second viewing when you get to those resolutions. This here, good stuff in here, but there was interesting spots that I really felt how he didn't go back, look at it, and realize that scene maybe wouldn't have worked. It works great in the moment, but then the payoff to it, I feel just now everything that these characters were doing leading up to this. And there's one particular moment in this movie that involves Brad Pitt where they just kept building and building and building this tension, and it was a great scene, but the payoff that they got to, it was open to a laugh, I guess, or a sense of relief, but it 100% dismissed all of the actions that the characters surrounding him were taking up to that point. It just made no sense. So stuff like that bothered me about this movie. Overall, I mean, it's beautifully shot. I mean, there's tons to appreciate about this, but from Tarantino, I think what you come to expect is he's going to deliver a masterpiece every time he steps into the director's chair there. But again, maybe it would be better if it was a different guy doing it. But for Tarantino, I just expected a little bit more with that. Next year we got Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and why did I buy the movie? That's probably what you're thinking right now. I bought it because Brad Pitt blew my damn mind in that movie. I literally bought the movie just for Brad Pitt's performance because I thought he was absolutely phenomenal. So, and I want to give it a second whirling into to see if it grows on me. But Brad Pitt, oh my gosh, so good in that movie. We got Godzilla, King of the Monsters. This is like a twofold movie. The monster or the kaiju action in this was awesome. I loved all of that. The human element to this movie was absolute dog shit, and that sucks because if they could have melded that a little bit better with how the first movie was presented, there were still issues I had with the first one, but you know, specifically Bryan Cranston's character, I was attached to that story arc. Once it, you know, kind of took off with Aaron Taylor Johnson, I wasn't as interested in the human element at all. But Bryan Cranston kept me really invested into that movie. This year, if they would have just made the human characters a little bit more interesting, and I feel like this movie could have been, you know, on that pedestal, just like some of the best monster movies out there, because the kaiju stuff in this was awesome, man. King Ghidorah was sweet, Rodan was sweet, Mothra was sweet, Godzilla just was awesome. And it was just cool because we got a lot of it. They held nothing back in this movie. So yeah, I just for like a big explosive Godzilla film with action, all about it. But just wish they would have done a little bit more to make it interesting from the human side too. Next here, Shaun of the Dead. I own this movie so many times. It's one of my favorite movies ever, and I fell into this weird situation where I eventually had like 2 or 3 of the Steelbooks, and I said, you know what, I'm going to just start hunting down all the Steelbook releases for this, and I'm going to collect all of them. So I grabbed the last couple ones that I know of that exist. One just came in here, and I've got 2 more that are making their way, I think, within the next week or so. So once I get everything, I'll probably do just a video with all the Shaun of the Dead Steelbooks, but I'm fairly certain I have got every Steelbook release solely for just Shaun of the Dead that has been released. I know there's been some combo packs that it's been involved with, but just, you know, for a single edition, I think I'm going to have them all. Once I do that video, come back and check it out. Let me know if I'm missing anything, because now I'm like on this mission to make sure I've got them all. But nevertheless, I'm really stoked to get this here. And it's a really nice steelbook here. I love how this is debossed in there as well. Little touches like that always go a long way. Next here, we've got Starship Troopers. And I don't know why I passed on this when they released it. I didn't pay a huge premium, but I definitely had to pay more than what it was when it was originally released. I don't know why I passed on it. This movie just like jumped into my mind, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. I was just like, damn, I just want to go watch this movie now. Something just overcame me out of nowhere. So I seeked out the steelbook. Luckily, I found somebody that had it sent over. It's a really nice steelbook release too. Really like this, and this movie is awesome. Like, this is just one of those movies, man. Paul Verhoeven just crushes it in here. It's exactly what you'd expect from one of his kind of movies and stuff. And I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen this movie. If not, definitely got to check that out. Next year, Detective Pikachu, and I had fun with this movie, just because of the Pokemon stuff. I wasn't like the biggest Pokemon fan in the world, but growing up in the era of Pokemon being the biggest thing and stuff, like, you couldn't not get around it. But I did like the show. I remember watching the show. All the character designs and stuff for the Pokemon was super cool. And I collected all the Burger King toys. You guys remember those Burger King toys? The coolest toys in the history of fast food, to me at least, was the Pokemon. They had the Pokeballs with, you know, each individual character. And I don't remember if they had all 151. I want to say they did. Whatever it was, I collected every single one of them. And I remember when I got Mewtwo, because Mewtwo came in like this little cylinder thing, I remember like shitting my pants, like pulling that thing out of my Happy Meal or the Burger King meal, whatever it was, and pulling that thing out, and I felt it already because it wasn't the shape of the Pokeball. I remember that specifically, just freaking out. And when they dropped Mewtwo in this too, just to like kick everything off, I was like, holy hell. But just seeing the Pokemon kind of like interacting in like what would be a normal setting world with Pokemon in it, that stuff was awesome. Everything else in here I thought was, you know, kind of hit or miss and such, but just seeing the Pokemon, I just thought was awesome. And Cubone was another one of my favorite Pokemon. I don't, you know what, now that I think about it, I don't remember seeing like Poliwag, Poliwhirl, or Poliwrath in there. That was kind of like my favorite evolution when I was a kid. I don't even remember seeing them in there, so maybe they weren't in there. I'm not remembering that at all, but Cubone was kind of like a next in line, so seeing Cubone in there was super cool. Next year, Anaconda. And $5, I was like, what the hell, man? I remember seeing this movie, I mean, multiple times. Everybody saw this movie if you grew up in the 90s. And again, just came into my head one day, and I was just like, yep, got this urge to watch it. And I remember it exactly as it was. It's just an over-the-top, it's Deep Blue Sea for snake movies, basically. So it's okay, not a perfect movie, but growing up with it, I definitely have some nostalgia value to it and such. And John Voight is awesome in this too. So, all right, next here we've got 2 of the Purge movies. That's the first Purge and the Purge Anarchy. I have not seen any of these Purge movies here. I finally saw these 2, and I like these a lot more than I was expecting to. There's the one trap that it falls into. It's one of the things I hate the most about horror movies. Is just people doing just ridiculously stupid shit. And when you get into these situations where death's knocking on the door, and it's always like this big build up for something to happen, and of course, like there's like this last second saving, that these movies fall into that trap. I mean, there's probably like 10 moments in each of these movies where like they're building to someone getting it, or like this tense moment, and then just like last second someone gets saved. I wish they would have mixed that up a little bit. But the premise to these, and just the style of the movies and some of the kills and stuff, just so brutal, man. Like those, I gotta watch the other one. I got the other one election year, and then I know the first Purge movie too, but gotta check those ones out yet. Next year we got Burial Ground, and Severin Films put this out. A lot of the movies that they've put out are movies I'm not familiar with, which is why I take a chance on some of these, because they do a great job with their releases. It's an awesome company. I've got a handful of their releases. I see them at Monster Mania out in New Jersey, and they're just cool dudes. We always kind of like shoot the shit for a bit and stuff, so I always grab a couple movies to take a shot on. This is, it's a zombie film, and it's probably not for everybody because it's very smut-like in a sense. Just with the characterization stuff in here is just like almost exploitation-esque. They don't really go super far with it, but the stuff that's presented and they do linger into is almost exploitation, and the zombie stuff is almost just there just so you've got something going on. But I enjoyed this for the most part. It does things that you wouldn't expect out of just like a simple low budget zombie film. What you normally expect out of these things is just zombies come, they kill them, you see some tits, and you move on. This is a little bit different. So if you haven't seen that, if you're willing to give something a chance, I would recommend taking a peek at that one there. But again, it's definitely a movie that's not for everybody. Next one here is My Bloody Valentine. Now, I'd never seen this before, ever, which is crazy to me. Because I'd obviously heard about this movie for forever. It's never came into my lap to where I've had an opportunity to see this. And when I saw Scream was putting it out, I was like, all right, like that's my thing. I'll wait for Scream to drop this. I'm going to grab that release. And this movie was awesome. I really like this movie a lot. Everybody keeps talking about, oh man, they should have done sequels to this and stuff. I agree. I agree 100%. I would have loved to have seen where they could have taken this story after this. I thought they did an awesome job with this. And I think this is one of those movies, too, for people. It's like, if you saw this when you were younger, it grows on you a lot. So seeing this, in my 30s now, I still really loved this movie. So, My Bloody Valentine, awesome. I'm probably going to seek out the remake now, too, just to kind of see, because I really like the story in there, and I know that's got Tommy Atkins in there, too. So, next here, just watched this one last night, Guns Akimbo. Awesome. If I could describe this in the quickest way possible, I would say it's a mature R-rated version of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. That's almost exactly what this movie felt like to me, and I loved this. Kept me invested. Daniel Radcliffe was fantastic in this. Samara Weaving is climbing the ranks of being one of my favorite actresses out there right now. Like, she is just phenomenal in everything that I see her in. But this whole time, man, Daniel Radcliffe, not one part of this movie that I ever just kind of stop and go, man, dude, it's crazy to see, like, the kid who played Harry Potter. Didn't even cross my mind once in this. That's how good, like, he put this out. So, awesome movie. Highly, highly, highly recommend checking out Guns Akimbo. Next here, and this is one of my favorite releases now because I was so stoked when Arrow was putting this out, and that is Killer Klowns from Outer Space. And I've had this for a while. I've seen the movie so many times. Finally got around to watching this release here on the Blue. And it looks great. Everything about this release is almost tip-top perfect. Arrow always does a really good job with their releases, but this one in particular was one of the special edition releases. You got a killer slip with it, reversible artwork inside, nice booklet in there and such. It's awesome, man. Arrow to me, they're like the Criterion for horror in a sense. Like, Scream does a great job, but these releases is what you would expect out of like a Criterion collection. So super happy with this release. Awesome movie, one of my favorites of all time for sure, and just unbelievably excited that got the kind of respect for that type of a release. Next here, and I was so stoked when this dropped, and that's Mandy. This one was such a surprise, as I'm sure it was to a lot of you out there. Just a role for sure built for Nicolas Cage, 100%. And this movie did not disappoint at all. So when they were dropping this Steelbook, I had to double dip and grab the Steelbook for this because just the colors on this, man. I mean, the colors on this Steelbook is a perfect representation of what this movie is. I absolutely love this release. Really happy to have that added. Next, we got Jaws, and always had Jaws, but I didn't have the slip that came with it, so always just had, the jewel case in here. So I, wanted to seek out the slip, found somebody that had it, got a decent price on it, I felt, but I needed to have the complete edition for this here with the slip, because it's a nice slip. It's got like a digibook packaging there. And then what is it? Yeah, Zavi put out a dope release for this too that I'm really excited about. Basically, a perfect merge of all the individual releases. You get the steelbook, the slide case for it, little extra things in there. But the Zavi release is coming. I'll definitely do an unboxing for that because Jaws is second favorite movie of all time. If you've been following the channel, you already know that. But I'm really happy to finally get the slip for that there to complete that release. Next here is Hans Zimmer's Live in Prague, and this is orgasmic music, man. When they put this out on Netflix, I was watching this like non-stop. Every time I watch this, it just invokes so much emotion because the music is so damn good. And beyond that, if you know the movies and you've got that emotional tie to the movies, it sucks you right in. Hans Zimmer is one of those composers that really allows the score to take on a life of its own. And it shows so much with the performances in here, the musicianship, everything about this here. It was just so well put together. The production is amazing. The sound is fantastic. The musicianship, it is just awesome. I love everything about this here. I had to finally grab this and I've been watching it the last couple of days ever since it came in. I'll probably keep watching it because it's so good. Next here we've got is Rabid. And another one. I've never seen this movie before. And there's things I really liked about it, and there's things I didn't really like about it, because it kind of just falls into some of them weird tropes where there's just stuff happening just for the sake of happening, and it doesn't really feel like it's serving a greater purpose. But nevertheless, it did some surprising things in there, and such an abrupt ending to this movie, too. It's just like out of nowhere, it's just like, all right, here's the credits. It's like, what the hell? Like, movie's over? But yeah, if you've seen it, I'd be curious to know what you guys' thoughts if you've seen this here. I guess I'm still making up my mind. Didn't not like it, but not fully in love either. Next here is the Crimes of Grindelwald, and I watched like the last half of this here. I got this one for the missus and such, but it wasn't the biggest fan of the first Fantastic Beasts. I just didn't feel like it carried the same, like the same flow, the same heart, the same, anything that the Harry Potter movies did. So I wasn't extremely interested in this, but from what I watched, I enjoyed a good portion of this from what I did end up watching, and Johnny Depp I thought was good in his role here, but this was another one that kind of felt like an abrupt ending to it too, and I don't know if they're making another one of these or not, but after this, I would check it out. Next here is Alita Battle Angel, and this here I really enjoyed. There's stuff in here too that kind of like didn't bother me, but it felt like there was almost too much implied, where I felt like a little bit more explanation or a little bit more dialogue to get into a little bit more detail would have helped out with this. But overall, the concept to this and where they kind of leave you with this here, I did enjoy this movie. And Robert Rodriguez is just awesome dude. Like, I'll see anything that he puts out just because he's got his name on it. And him and James Cameron together, it's super cool. I really enjoyed this, though. I feel like this is almost the perfect way to create what would be like a new female superhero or a new, female, legend of cinema, I guess. Like the way that they set this up in here didn't focus on any, BS with it. It was just a good story told and, a great center character to follow with that there. And next, we've got the latest Mortal Kombat film. There's been a couple different animated things like over the years and stuff, but nothing quite like this. And this was so cool, man. They did such a good job with this. And Mortal Kombat's got like a special place in my heart, kind of growing up with it and such as it is. I call it a guilty pleasure, but the first Mortal Kombat movie, like I really love that movie because seeing all these characters kind of brought to life and everything. Being a kid seeing that was just mesmerized by everything in that there. And even Mortal Kombat Annihilation, aside from how ridiculously stupid the majority of that movie is, just seeing the characters in there it just brings a smile to my face. This here, though, is like the Mortal Kombat movie that we have needed, though. It's super violent, very R-rated, and all the characters, they do such a good job melding in with all the different characters in this, but I thought they did such a good job with this. I would highly recommend checking this one out. If you're a fan of Mortal Kombat, it's right up your alley. If you like animated pictures and stuff, definitely recommend checking that out too. Last but not least for this one here, guys, we've got the Meg, and this was just ridiculously over the top, almost too much in some spots. But I guess that's kind of what they were going for. The only thing that disappointed me about this movie, because you kind of know what you're getting yourself into when you watch this. Don't expect, no classic masterpiece type of a film. It's just a bloated big shark movie. The only thing that I had a big issue with is they definitely were not taking themselves overly serious in this. They were having fun with it, but when they got to some spots where they really could have like did some damage, they held back, and that bothered me a little bit. There was one particular moment on the beach where it just set the table for what could have been such an amazing sequence, and they didn't pull the trigger, which really bummed me out. A perfect example, if you've like stumbling over all my words here, if you've seen the Piranha remake, the way that they had done the sequence in there on the beach with everybody going out, like, that's how you do that. If you're gonna make a goofy ass movie about a bunch of little mini fish killing people and tearing them up, that sequence right there when everybody's running on the beach trying to get out of the water and stuff like that, oh man, like that's perfect. That's perfect. They had a golden opportunity to do something like that with this monster shark, and they completely botched it. That almost ruined the whole movie for me because I was like so happy that they were going to go there, and then they didn't. And I was like, what was the point of even setting this up at all? Yeah, oh well. It was fun, though. It was a fun movie overall, but that's going to do it, guys. That's the stack. I'm not going to pick all these up right now because they're kind of scattered on the table, but yeah, we're at like 21 minutes right now, so yeah, it's hard to keep these short, I guess, because I like to talk a lot. So thank you guys very much for watching. If you've seen any of the movies, would love to know your thoughts on them. Let me know what you guys have been watching. Again, hope you're all staying safe, and, you know, what we can take away from all this stuff, you don't want to get, like, you know, speechy with everything, but take some time to focus on yourselves if you're not. You know, we've got all this extra time on our hands now. Maybe taking some time to self-reflect and figure out things you could do for yourself or change things for yourself might be the best way to, you know, make good use of that time and everything. I've been doing that myself, and as much as it sucks with the situation that we're all in, it's really helped a lot to hopefully come out stronger in the end with all this. So that's my little 2 cents with everything going on in the world. But that's going to do it, guys. Thank you all again. Hope you're all doing well. Catch you all next time.